Are you still bad at Marvel Snap? Well, this video might help. Why pass? Why are we passing? We're back with another review of some viewer submitted gameplay, and this time we're going to watch Kellerax, who has peaked out at rank 89 in Marvel Snap, piloting this Sera deck. And Sera Miracle, Sera Control, whatever kind of variation you're running, is an archetype or shell that I have used to hit infinite probably like 5 or 6 seasons now. This is one of my absolute favorite ways to play Marvel Snap, and I think it's an archetype that really encourages a lot of thoughtfulness in your lines, a lot of priority management, understanding your removal cards with things like Shang-Chi and Enchantress. And I think we're going to learn a lot watching this deck piloted in this video. A lot of opportunities to improve both our mechanical lines and sort of mapping out our turns, but also sometimes managing our psychology and making sure tilt isn't getting the best of us. Now, as always, I want to say, there are going to be mistakes in this video. I'm picking out losses specifically, but you're still going to be nice. You're not going to make fun of people, because if you do, I'm going to delete you from existence forever. We're all trying to learn here. We're all trying to improve. And even I myself had a few moments where I was like, oh, wait. I just realized something as we're going through these games. So we're all aiming to get better. I should also note, based on some of the responses to the last video, no, when I'm mapping out all of these games, you're not necessarily supposed to know all of this exactly in every given moment and see all of the lines. Obviously, I'm pausing games and talking through, 3 or 4 minutes of a turn. That's not something you can do in real gameplay, but we're trying to build habits. We're trying to build patterns in our brain so that when we see these sorts of things unfold, we have these sort of heuristics or maps we can kind of call back on as we're playing and say, like, okay, yes, nice. I kind of know, I've seen this before. I know what to do here. We're building out those instincts and shoring up some of our foundations so that when we do have to make snap decisions in a game, we're much better equipped to do that. And we sort of see things faster and more clearly. So all that said, I think this is actually a really, really cool video. A lot of stuff to learn in this one. So let's jump into some Sera Control gameplay here with Kellerax. All right, so it's turn 1. We've got Titan, a full set of 2-cost cards, which is certainly not a bad thing to have early, but none of our power cards and none of our scalers. No Angela, no Bishop, no Sera. So that's just a good thing to kind of take stock of as you're going through the game. Like, what do I have? What's good? How confident do I feel? Like, what kind of lines can I play for? Right now, nothing in particular giving us a direction, but locations can change that, and certainly top decks can change that as well. So let's see if Dr. Alexander has a turn 1 play. Dr. Alexander does have a turn 1 play super late in the turn there, and that is a Misty Knight that's been buffed by high Evo. So we know we're playing against a high Evo deck. That means something like Shang-Chi could be a real big priority. We just top decked. Like, we know Shang-Chi is great against Hulk, great against sometimes Abomination. If we can lose priority going to the final turn, that could give us a great way to answer a Hulk. Particularly in a Sera deck, that's something you're trying to do, like playing a bad turn 5 sometimes, or scalers like Angela and Bishop that haven't gotten big yet. Drop your priority on turn 5, go into turn 6 behind, and then your cards like Shang-Chi, Enchantress, and Killmonger can react appropriately. Now, Kellerax here has chosen to play Lizard. I wouldn't play Lizard here. There's no reason to play the Lizard yet. You have a card like Mirage in your deck that is there for a reason. You want to get information about the opponent's deck, and you want to give yourself more options on future turns. So Mirage is a card you want to play as early as possible. I think, personally, I mean, you're not trying to save it for like a specific target you're trying to hit or anything in their hand. Like, you're okay if it gets something small that allows you to weave it into your turns more easily, but more importantly, it's just not good later, and you might run out of time to play it later. So I think it's fine to play right now on turn 2. Lizard's kind of a risk to play early, because you might accidentally play into a spot that your opponent fills up really easily. So if I were going to play any 2-drop, I might play an Armor, but you don't really want to play Armor left, because Misty Knight's a card you can kill with the Killmonger. You don't want to play Armor mid because you can Shang-Chi. Armor right might be wasted, so I think Mirage is just such a natural fit. Mysterio you're saving for your Bishop turns, so you don't want to play Mysterio. So I wouldn't play Lizard here, and if I was going to play Lizard, I almost certainly wouldn't play it somewhere where my opponent has a card already, I might just throw it right at some risk, obviously, but you're willing to tolerate a little bit of risk sometimes. So Sera enters the hand. That is fantastic news. That means we know we have a really good, strong turn 6 setup option, and we know too that we might be able to drop priority pretty easily. So here I still like Mirage. I probably even like Mirage in cloning vats right now. There is some risk to playing the cloning vats if you're trying to lose priority. It's another reason not to play Lizard sometimes too. Like you might accidentally win a location because Lizard's higher power. You can always dump him on turn 6. So is the upside of the additional Mirage in cloning vats worth the priority risk? Probably not, actually. I think here I would play Mirage mid. I know I'm matching the power per position of my opponent. In other words, they've also played 2 power there, so I'm not like committing with stuff that's too small. Positionally I can go 1-to-1, especially because I know I have Shang-Chi to kind of recover there later with the monster. So I think I'm playing Mirage mid this turn, just seeing what the opponent has. Let's see what Kellerax here does. Nice, by the way, having the deck tracker here from Kellerax's recording. This was probably recorded prior to the PC client, but that might make these nice too. So Kellerax decides to play Mirage right. Again, I don't think that's terrible or anything. It's gonna give you, you know, options, I guess. Ooh, the hazmat. Okay, that's another Luke Cage indicator. The opponent loves our Mirage skin, as do I. It's actually sick. So the opponent played Lockjaw there. They played a Wasp into Lockjaw and got a Sunspot. As you can see, this Lizard is just sitting here, and the opponent knows, like, hey, I can debuff this Lizard now. Like, this is a great place to play all this stuff. If you'd held the Lizard, that wouldn't be happening. So the cloning vats for us, you know, again, this is fine. It wins a location, which is a priority concern, but we're probably going to drop priority anyway with Sera on 5 and the opponent playing Lockjaw stuff. So probably not really too bad of a payoff. The hazmat's a risk, obviously, for us, and we know too that the opponent has a hazmat in hand, so that's another thing we need to keep in mind. If we play too many cards or we play them too soon, we're going to be more exposed to hazmats. That's another reason to try to maybe drop priority and play for that big turn 6. Now that said, we're behind, right? We're losing this game right now. The opponent has a Lockjaw down, Sunspot scaling, that plays into their high evo stuff. We think a big Hulk could be on the way. Sunspot's there. They may have a Cyclops this turn perfectly on curve. So things are looking shaky right now. I'm quick to retreat in this scenario as soon as my opponent snaps, but we're not out of it necessarily. And until they snap, we don't have to be out of it. And there's still chances for us to do spicy stuff. So this turn, I want to make sure that I'm losing priority and just kind of, it's okay to just play stuff out here. Maybe something like Mirage mid, so we set up a tie here, and Scarlet Witch right is probably fine to prevent any cloning vat shenanigans, because our opponent could do stuff like, you know, play a hazmat and then play a really cheap abomination and then get that back from cloning vats and play it again. So I just want to turn that off. Probably it doesn't benefit us much. We already have a full hand. We have resources. So I'm probably playing Mirage mid, Scarlet Witch right, and we're happy. Let's see what Kellerax does. Scarlet Witch left instead and Mysterio mid. So I mean, there's nothing like inherently wrong with this. I just don't know that there's anything good happening here either with this play. Like you know, this gets more power than my play into play immediately, but that's something I don't actually want. I want to make sure I don't have priority. I'm also just really filling up my positions. Like I don't have a lot of flexibility left now, and I have very little power there. It's going to be hard to pull that back with only 1 card. You know, Mysterio is really here for Bishop in this deck, which we don't have in hand, so, you know, not going to get a lot of utility. I'm gonna go back and edit this into the video if I remember and say, wait a minute, why are we playing Mysterio into our opponent's hazmat? That's insanity. Scarlet Witch, I mean, turning off Titan makes sense for Hulk. I don't think that's bad again necessarily. There's nothing wrong with this play, just a different approach than I guess I would have taken for whatever reason. Let's see if the Scarlet Witch pays off or not. The Dark Dimension here actually might pay off a little bit by turning that Lockjaw off momentarily. So let's see. Sera definitely comes down here. Where does Sera go, I think, is one really important question. Can't go left because Dark Dimension. I think I put the Sera right for fear of losing priority. If I play it mid, they might just pass into that Sunspot and then Hulk on 6. And if they do pass into that Sunspot, You're winning mid, you're winning right. They're only winning left. And then you can't Shang-Chi a Hulk. So I would probably put Sera right here just to manage my priority as much as possible. Sera mid, though, instead. Okay, so they play the Abomination right, exactly like we talked about. Now, it's actually not extra cheap. It's just Lizard here, so they're only floating a little bit for the Sunspot. And, of course, they have taken priority now. So now we have a really good Shang-Chi potential this turn. It's just about choosing where we want that to go. I will say, like, left, we probably have to consider a loss. Like, it's just too far gone. Lizard's really tiny. We just don't have a lot of stuff happening left. It's a small Mysterio. Mid, by the way, we're at 13 to 12 already. That's another reason for Sera not to go mid, is like we already have a pretty good power here, and we want to play Shang-Chi because we know there's a monster there. This is, remember, we don't see the Abomination yet when we play the Sera. So I want to shore up my power right because I know I can swing mid really hard. Now the Abomination means we can also maybe swing right really hard. So we kind of got bailed out a little bit in some ways by the Abomination, but I still think Sera right feels so much better because I know I have power potential here, and I've already got the Mysterio as well. So I need power here, and this deck can't add that much power with few cards. So interesting. So going into the final turn, at this stage, well, I wouldn't be at this stage. I'd have slightly different stuff happening, but here, I mean, we assume left is gone because that Lockjaw, hard to predict. We don't have any real power there. Sunspot, hard to predict. It's just too much. So we need to be able to flip right. Really, only one of the good ways to do that is with Shang-Chi. So we probably have to Shang-Chi right. The thing is, though, you expect the opponent to play a Hulk mid because the opponent is already winning left. They're already winning right. They want to flip a location, so they're going to flip a location mid. So you could try to Shang-Chi mid to hit the Hulk, but then you don't really have enough power to flip right back in your favor, do you? Because you only have 2 power there. So you could do like Enchantress wouldn't be enough. That would only be 7 to 9. You could do like armor plus, yeah, Shang-Chi being 3, it means you just don't really have enough. Like Bishop is 3 and armor's 3. That's 6 and 2 is only 8. Does this final Mysterio revealing buff the Bishop? In that case, Bishop might be slightly better. But still kind of clunky. Bishop's actually going to be 2, right? Why is he 3? Yeah, he's 2. So yeah, I think that's actually the... Oh, whoa, what just happened? Whoa, I accidentally skipped ahead. Shoot! No! Where's our game? Dr. Alexander. Bishop's 2. So... Spoiled myself a little bit there. Bishop's 2. So you could actually play Bishop, Shang-Chi, armor, and like whatever Mirage or something to buff the Bishop. So that might be what I do, since I can win right with Bishop, armor, Shang-Chi mid to flip the monster and what we think is going to be a Hulk. Bishop here for 2. That's 2 energy. Armor here. Armor is just the most efficient 1/3. So that puts Bishop at 2. Shang-Chi mid puts Bishop at 3, and then Mirage or whatever left might put Bishop up to 5 even with this, I think. So then you'd have enough to flip right, and a Shang-Chi would certainly win you mid. Now, that said, I'd rather have Sera here. It would be much easier, but, you know, I think that's still a winning line if you expect the Hulk mid, which I think is probably their most likely line. So they instead go Enchantress mid, Shang-Chi right. I don't hate this. You think you're ahead mid. Right, you have, 4 and 4 here, so you're adding like 9 basically to your 13. That's 21. The problem is it just doesn't beat the Hulk, which is their most likely turn 6 play. If you're going to Enchantress, you could also consider a Hazmat, but you're actually going to suffer more from that than your opponent. You have more cards. That's not really a good line. I mean, I think this is okay. This is the right sort of thing to do if you're playing Shang-Chi right. I'm just curious about Shang-Chi mid. And indeed, yeah, this is, again, the most likely outcome. They want to flip the one location they're losing. So Hulk comes down. They're obviously winning left. This is not enough to keep up mid. And yeah, we lose. Hulk's too big. Hulk's too big. So I mean, listen, right? Like, oh, we also have the hazmat. Oh my goodness, that changes a lot too. I think we would have maybe lost against a hazmat even with my line if there were like a Sera here and a, well, especially with Bishop and armor here. I don't know if it would have been enough. They would have been at 8. I don't know if it would have been enough. Like, the Mysterio here is losing a lot of power. Oh, speaking of which, was that Mysterio played after we saw the hazmat? That's just occurring to me. Was the Mysterio played after we saw the hazmat? It was. That's another. I didn't like the Mysterio play anyway, but I definitely don't like the Mysterio play after seeing hazmat and Luke Cage. Oh my god. No, we can't do that. We can't do that. We have to see that. We have to update our schemas mid-game and say, hey, look, I've got to update information. They've got hazmat. I can't go wide against this for no benefit. That's just a real risk. Just occurred to me. I missed it too, to be honest, but I didn't like Mysterio anyway, but that's extra reason to hate the Mysterio. So listen, I don't know that this game would have been won with some of our alternate lines, but I do know that we had some alternate lines I think I liked a little better. I think we just did a lot of things without really thinking about it in the early game. Like, why Lizard? Why Mysterio? Scarlet Witch, I mean, I think there's probably some logic to Scarlet Witch. Why not Mirage sooner? You know, there's a few things I think we could have really optimized there that would have given us at least chances to win the game. Even if it didn't come together, I think we would have been in a much better spot. Because as you see, we're not that far behind. Only 7. So, I don't know. Interesting learning points there for sure. All right, so next up here, we've got Jorsher, Arrow Portrait. We got Subterranea already shuffling a bunch of rocks in, and we drew one on turn 1. But thankfully, we got Sera, which is a key card for us, and we've got Mirage too, which can help us fill in some gaps from like card quality standpoint if we're drawing rocks. Now that said, we want to play the Mirage probably ASAP, so we are less likely to get a rock. So I definitely want to play Mirage on 2 here. I want to play the Quinjet. That is a hand-sized deck very often, which means rocks could be bad for them. Like, rocks definitely don't help them add more cards to hand. And oh, okay. Again, Scarlet Witch early. We're tempoing the Scarlet Witch so much, just playing it out for no noticeable, discernible advantage. And I can't really figure out why we're sitting on the Mirage so much. Mirage in particular, like I said, with the rocks, we want to play it as soon as possible so that they're less likely to have drawn a rock and we get a meaningful, valuable card in hand. But I also just don't really know why we care about Scarlet Witch yet. Scarlet Witch can be great late in this game, in any given game, to really surprise the opponent. You know, for instance, we already see Baxter Building. We could turn off Baxter Building late when the opponent thinks they've won Baxter Building, and then actually save ourselves 3 power in the other 2 spots. And it's like, boom, huge surprise, 6 power swing maybe off the Scarlet Witch out of nowhere. We can turn off Limbos in some decks if people play Limbo. So I think we're just throwing away the Scarlet Witch, which is a super high utility card. I think we're just getting rid of it too early, especially when Mirage here, again, feels really good to me. I like Mirage in this deck. We're just not really utilizing it much. So Orcus Forge is insane for our deck. Sentinels are so good in Sera decks. I've always actually liked Sentinel a ton, especially when we have Nova and Killmonger in the deck. You can just go wide a lot and buff a bunch of Sentinels. Now we did hit Collapsed Mine, which sucks. We've hit 3 rocks and a Collapsed Mine. This game has so many rocks. So I think a pass here feels fine. I'm very frustrated that we've drawn 3 straight rocks, but I think we've also missed an opportunity to get a good card off Mirage, and by now it's very likely the opponent has drawn a rock. So I think there's a pretty good chance the Mirage just got a lot worse by now. We both skip. Okay. Shang-Chi, powerful card, maybe not so good in this scenario. So this turn I am playing Mirage right, and I'm playing 2 rocks left, I think. You might think that's an overcommitment a little bit. It is scary, I'll admit, having 2 rocks left, but I want those Sentinels in hand going into my final turn so that I have a good play for Sera. But I don't want to play a Mirage into Baxter Building because I don't want to win priority yet. It's kind of risky because we have cards like Shang-Chi. We want to be reactive. So we play Mirage right, and rocks left, we're gonna have 6 cards in hand, which is gonna be a hand size problem a little bit, but it doesn't matter because we're playing Sera on 5. We know we're not adding any additional cards. So let's see what happens here. We've drawn 3 out of the 5 rocks, by the way. The opponent, who knows? Okay, rocks times 3 right. I just don't know any reason to do that. I mean, number one, if I'm playing rocks, I think I'm spreading them out so that I don't overcommit to a spot. So I have, you know, play flexibility to play there. But I at least want to get 1 in Orcus Forge, right? I could maybe understand not putting 2 in Orcus Forge if you want to save space for yourself, but space gets reduced value because we know everybody's got so many rocks and there's just not that much energy to play with. I feel like this is maybe just a frustration play. Like, hey, look, I've drawn 3 rocks. This sucks. I'm going to show you my rocks. But I don't think we're out of this game. I think sometimes we get caught up in these bad RNG moments. Like, this is a really crappy set of locations. It's really frustrating, blah, blah, blah. But we can't let tilt take over because the opponent has had the exact same set of stuff. For all we know, they've drawn 5 rocks already, or maybe it's not possible to draw 5, but you know what I mean? They might have had just as bad of luck as us. They also had to skip a turn for Collapse Mine. They also haven't played any cards yet. We're not behind. And in fact, Sera is the kind of card that actually lets us recover even faster. If we'd played Mirage early for a card, if we had Sera, I think we'd be heavily favored in this game. But instead, it feels like maybe we've let tilt get the best of us, and instead we're actually losing this game that was probably quite winnable. But I don't understand this other than just like a tilt, like I'm out of this kind of thing. Opponent is playing Captain America and a rock. Okay, nobody is trying to farm rocks into Orcus Forge, which really surprises me. Like, the whole challenge in this is finding stuff to play. And we have a thing there that's generating ways to play, but we're not using it, which just shocks me. So here, we can actually play Sera mid, and I think I probably would. Oh, and now look, dude, these rocks are gone when we have a bishop. They could have fed a bishop, which probably isn't actually very good, but you know, it's a thing. Sera mid's fine now because you're not risking priority, but you're still contesting the most important space on board. We just retreat. No. What? No, I'm so sad. I feel like this game is so winnable. Maybe not from this particular position, but dialing it back, it feels so winnable to me. I feel like this is such a lost opportunity. I feel like tilt got the best of them here, which, listen, it happens to all of us, you know, no hate, no judgment. But I think we have to reassess and think about symmetry, and the experience that our opponent is having is probably pretty similar to ours. Because, like, look, they just played Captain America this turn, right? Why did they just play Captain America on turn 4? Because that's probably when they drew it, which means they didn't have any other plays. They were drawing rocks. They were drawing air, just like you. They just didn't show you the rocks. They sat on them. Otherwise, they would have played Captain America on turn 3, right? So they may have had a bunch of weird stuff in hand. They may have had like 1 big card in hand or 2, like a Devil Dinosaur or something. Shang-Chi answers that no problem if they try to play it on 5. So, you know, why are we giving up? We have Sera. We have Shang-Chi. There's so many good opportunities here. Oh man, I'm really sad. That feels like a real lost. Like, look, number one, you don't even have to retreat because you're not under pressure. They haven't snapped you. There's nothing at stake. At least see what happens on turn 5. See if they have a Shang-Chi target for you. They're gonna have priority. You know that for a fact. Goodness, I feel like this is just tilt central costing us this one. I'm really sad. That feels like a winnable game 100%. Even here it feels winnable. All right, moving on to Malone Brown. So we've got Mirage early again. Are we gonna skip the Mirage on 2 again? I don't know. We got Bishop Mysterio, which is definitely a good line. We like that a lot. Vormir Mirage is a pretty good card to throw into Vormir as well, by the way. Kiln, we're great with Kiln because of Bishop. So I would probably play Mirage into Kiln because we have Mysterio, which also activates on Vormir. So Mirage into Kiln, start get that rolling, get that tempo flying. Bishop on 3 into Kiln. Then you've got Mysterio on 4 into Kiln. Kiln you feel great about because you've got no. There you go. There you go. What? Why pass? are we passing? I don't know. I don't know why Mirage is in the deck if we're never gonna play it. What are we saving the Mirage for? I'm trying to imagine what the goal is with this Mirage that's being envisioned other than just playing it. This 2 energy's gone forever. This deck does have a way to dump a lot of stuff late, right? We have Sera. That's great for the deck, but we know Kiln's locking off. We're never getting that space back, and this deck typically has no trouble filling its energy late. So spinning it early is fine. Oh my goodness, I am sad again. I don't believe you in regards to the cable. Collapsed mine, interesting. So this does add a little bit of a wrinkle, because you want to be playing your bishop this turn to get an under kiln. But remember, it's a wrinkle for the opponent as well, right? They also have to skip a turn, so you're not really falling behind necessarily here. You might even consider something like a Killmonger here, just to make sure, like, because your opponent may pass anyway. They may say, hey, look, I got to pass. I'm going to pass on 3. I'm not going to pass on 4, because it just makes it worse. So I'm going to pass. If you Killmonger, you get to wipe your rocks while your opponent wastes 3 energy, but you're still developing. And your Killmonger is probably not going to be that much better anyway. You don't need to save it for Nova or whatever. You could Nova and Vormir. So I would 100% just Killmonger here, hope the opponent passes, which they probably should, right? And then you still get to clean up anyway. And if they don't pass, so what? You know, that's fine. You went 3 for 3. So yeah, I would just Killmonger mid here 100%. We pass for the collapse of mine. Okay, I mean, if you think the Killmonger is going to be worth more, maybe. But it's fine. It's fine. Opponent is thinking they're not passing, maybe. Oh, opponent doesn't pass. Oh, they hit our bishop, which is really good for their kiln. That's a big hit for them for sure. That's good. Okay, we go bishop mid now. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with bishop mid now. I'm just wondering if maybe a Scarlet Witch wasn't better here, because we're already behind. We know they have a bishop. They do need to skip some energy, so, you know, maybe our bishop can catch up a little bit if they, like, pass their turn 4 or something. But we could just turn this off with Scarlet Witch, you know? Play a Mirage or play a Lizard or something. We don't have to be, you know, succumb to this kiln. I feel like what happened here probably is that we knew we wanted to play bishop there on 3. We couldn't. We were interrupted, and we didn't re-update our lines. We just got in the tread of what our play was going to be, and then we never updated it. We didn't say, hey, wait a minute, we got to rethink about this when we saw new cards and we got new information. You kind of have to reset every turn and say, okay, this is where I'm at now. Now what do I do? But I would definitely think about Scarlet Witch here, and I would Mirage, but I would have already played the Mirage. So Mirage would already be down. So opponent plays left, a Mr. Negative. Okay, so Mr. Negative is scary, but they still have a fully locked off location and they can't play mid. So they're going to have to skip an entire turn still. And mid is still not that strong. So this Mr. Negative's not that intimidating to me, honestly. I'm not that scared of it yet. Scary, but not dreadfully so. We retreat again. Oh my god, but look what we just drew. No! I'm so sad. The opponent has not cleared their rocks, and we just drew armor. We can play armor right, and the rocks will be stuck. We just insta-win right. And then we only have to contest left, which, I mean, admittedly is still maybe a little challenging given it's a Mr. Negative deck, but my god, we don't have to retreat yet. They haven't even snapped. There's no retreat pressure. Oh my goodness, man. I think the rocks don't go off based on priority, right? Like they don't, the opponent has priority. Do the rocks, maybe they go off based on priority, like at the end of their portion of the turn, not at the end of the entire turn. In which case armor wouldn't have revealed yet. I don't think it works that way, but frankly, even if it does, there's no snap pressure. Try it and see. You know what I mean? Test it. You don't have to retreat yet. Like, yeah, time has some value, but by God, try it and see if it works. I think it works. Chat will, the comments will be able to tell me for sure this works. I'm like 90% sure it does. But just test it out. See if it works. You know? Play the armor. It's still going to be a hard game to win potentially, but you have 8 places to buff your bishop, and your opponent would only have 4. So, you know, their bishops, they're capped at 8 power here. You're not capped. You could maybe, you know, play Armor and Mysterio this turn. That's 3 on the bishop. That's already up to 4. And then try to get 4 cards out next turn. Might be tough, but not impossible at least. But instead we retreat. Feel like another tilt. I feel like this was 2 straight collapse mind games and we just lost a tilt. Even though we know the opponent had to skip 5 mana. 5 energy to play here. That feels like a lost opportunity on like 4 different angles. So many chances there to pull that out. All right, we got Deadpool player. That means destroy. Not always, but usually. We finally have an Angela. This is nice. This might give some direction to our plays for once. We've kind of been like not playing 2s a lot in this deck, which I've not been happy about. Mirage, we were never gonna play that anyway, so it's good that it burned. I don't know why they're upset about it. It never gets played anyway. Yeah, Angela and Asgard's great, and Yondu does, by the way, point to destroy, or at least a null potentially. But we love Yondu, or I mean, we love Angela and Asgard. That's awesome. Deny them and potentially get resources for our Sera. That's really good news. Ooh, Elysium makes our life so interesting. Okay, we've actually got to be careful here. I think one thing that happens when you see Elysium a lot is you just start playing things because they're cheap, but more than ever, you don't need to, because you're probably not going to have so many cards late that you can't play them all at the end of the game, especially with a Sera. Like, everything's going to be like 1 or 2 energy max. You can probably play 4 or 5 cards that final turn, so you don't necessarily have to rush out your hand. And we need to think about our resources here. Enchantress, great against Null. Shang-Chi, great against Null and big Venoms. Killmonger, great against big Deadpools and the Yondu on board. So this is a game where we 100% want to lose priority into the final turn to make sure that these reactive cards that are super cheap right now all have ways to be utilized, and we can try to call our shots. I'm actually fine with playing a Mysterio here. You know, we could maybe try to save it for a bishop, but it's okay to just play stuff. And thankfully with Mysterio, it's not going to push for priority a bunch because we're going to get zeros. So not necessarily a card we need to play right now, but it doesn't hurt. And I'm glad we didn't play the Killmonger. That's a good save for sure. So that's good news. Venom coming down, fairly small Venom, so not necessarily a Shang-Chi target here. We probably would like the Venom to get a little bit bigger. It's hard for us to answer. It's right at that threshold where it's like, man, that's hard for our deck to deal with. Yeah, Sera mid I think is reasonable, but you have to think right now, by the way, like this Mysterio mid, the 0 power Mysterio mid, instead of the 4 power Mysterio mid. If you know you're putting Sera on Asgard because you know you're playing for Asgard to draw cards, your power is somewhat capped. I mean, this deck doesn't have a lot of high power plays anyway, so maybe this isn't totally true, but for me, I would like to maybe know that I'm gonna feel really competent in Asgard and then try to use like Shang-Chi to win somewhere else without a ton of power. So in other words, stacking that power tall instead of spreading it wide, especially where we know there might be a destroy thing happening. Like this 4 power here is kind of dead if they play like a Carnage or a Venom, because it's going to be hard for us to escalate back up above these mid-range threats. So there's a consideration. Again, not necessarily wrong or anything. Probably pretty hard to spot. Pretty advanced maybe, but wow, that is the best Lady Deathstrike I've ever seen. It wiped out the Angela, dude. That's sick. We're still gonna win Asgard, but losing the Angela at that scaling is tough. Now, thankfully, we did protect our good Mysterio here, so that's kind of funny. Bishop at 1 energy is insane. It's so good. I don't know where it's going though. I might actually put it left again. It's like the opponent thinks they're kind of safe left. Bishop is enough to actually go toe-to-toe there while still retaining the reactivity of the Shang-Chi and the Enchantress specifically. I'd be really careful about playing right now too, because we might accidentally pull priority into turn 6, which we do not want. We want to be Shang-Chiing, Enchantressing, etc. on turn 6. So we have a monster turn 6 set up. So I would probably play the bishop left here. I mean, it depends on what else we're doing. What am I actually playing this turn? Let's see. We have Scarlet Witch off the top at 1 energy. So do we have enough to play literally everything next turn? 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Not quite. So I would try to probably play a lizard at least this turn. You could also argue perhaps an armor. Maybe something like an armor mid. It's really tough to play the armor though, because you just don't know where the opponent's going to go. They have priorities, so it's not about like shutting down the Deadpool, but it is potentially shutting down your Shang-Chi. You could maybe tempo an Enchantress. I'd probably be a little bit tempted, but I do know this deck is likely to run Null, so I'd be pretty sad. I may rather float energy than waste a reactive card. So I would probably just play like Bishop Lizard Nova this turn. Nova just to get him set up. Probably like Lizard mid, Nova left. Maybe even Nova mid. I think Armor left is actually okay. I think that's totally reasonable. Okay, I'm actually okay with this turn. I think this is absolutely fine. A lot of options here, and this is a completely viable one. Okay, so big Carnage eating there. They're feeding a Null for sure, because some of those eats don't really make sense from a power standpoint. Like, you know, eating 3 power stuff with Carnage is not technically efficient. So they're certainly thinking about a Null, and we know Death is also a real possibility here too. The good news is we're really wide and we're contesting all 3 locations, which is really good news. But we did gain priority back because of this bishop right, and because we just played so much stuff, which kills our entire hand. Yeah, I take it back what I said. Remember how I said we might want to hold the armor, we might want to put bishop left? If we had a 3 power bishop here and 0 power here, would we have been able to lose priority? We would have been at 3 to 11, we would have been down 8, and we would have only been up by 2. Yeah, see, this is why priority matters so much. Like bishop left, no armor. We have no priority, which means our Shang-Chis and our Enchantresses can cover our losing locations to make sure that both of them answer a Null, right? And the Shang-Chi also potentially answers the Death. We're wide enough that we might be able to get out of this anyway. I feel like we're in a pretty good spot regardless, but it just, the opportunity would be so high to potentially rip this Shang-Chi and Enchantress when we didn't have priority. This is still a lot of power though, in particular Nova just going wide. Is this Scarlet Witch left correct? We have 7, 10 plus 3. Yeah, that's fine. So 13 to 11 left. I'm totally okay with the splits here. Silencing the Lizard makes sense mid. From this scenario, I think this is probably a completely fine way to play this. I just wish we weren't in this scenario. I wish we didn't have priority, but it's okay. I think we're still gonna win, because I mean, I guess though, if they did have like Death and Null, I'm not actually sure exactly how cheap the Death is. It's 3 and 3, so Death might be too expensive to play with Null. No, it's not, because of Elysium. Yeah, if they played like Death here and Null here, I think we lose, or maybe Null here, wherever. Not sure exactly how big the Null is. Is Null big enough to beat this bishop? Mid is 100% secured. Technically feeds Null a little bit more even. Oh, Null is... Oh my goodness, dude. Wow, we got bailed out. Well, did we hold up? Would Deadpool left have won them the game? No. Null was exactly 18. Wow, and we were exactly 18, right? So Deadpool would have only been 4 left, which would have been 15 to 13, which would have won, but then we would have won a tiebreaker, right? So Deadpool moving here didn't really change much. So we did get there either way by the skin of our teeth, but man, imagine how much more assured we would have felt if we could have played Enchantress here and Shang-Chi here with out priority so that Null died no matter what. It would have been like assured, basically. I mean, maybe there's still some weird line with death or something, I don't know, but it would have felt a lot better. So sometimes you get there, but I actually think some real opportunities to improve there. Priority management is an enormous deal in Sera decks. It's like the #1 thing to keep in mind. Really, really vital.